right, hello everybody, and welcome to our weekly workshop. Thanks for being here. My name is Trey Gonzalez. I'm a product manager here at Variphy. I'll be your host for today's live webinar. We're also joined by my good buddy and colleague Victor Verba. He's the director of systems engineers over here at Variphy. How you doing today, Vic?
I'm doing well, Trey. I'm doing well. Excited to get 16 out the door.
Yeah, at long last too. I know we already covered a little bit of Teams a couple weeks ago. We've got more on that in the following weeks here. But what are we going to cover today? Is it mainly core application stuff? Is it team stuff as well, Vic?
Yeah, it's going to be predominantly core application. Talk about a couple of new things that were added for our Cisco Call Manager customers. A little bit of additional logging that was added, and then we'll cover just kind of briefly over MS Teams for anybody that may have missed some of the previous webinars.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, we're excited to get started with today's demo, but first, let me go ahead and walk everybody through the agenda for the webinar. So to start off, we're going to kick it off with a quick overview about Variphy, what it is we do. Then we'll jump into the demo where Vic will showcase Variphy 16.0. After the demo, we'll pause for Q&A and get some of your questions answered. So if during the demo you have any questions, please be sure to ask them in the Q&A section on the WebEx here. I'll be monitoring those and I'll make sure to get all the questions answered after Vic's done. Lastly, we're going to reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so please hang tight to the end, see if you got lucky. Now, a little bit about us. Variphy is the preferred analytics and management solution for UC Analytics. We provide industry-leading dashboards and call reporting for Cisco Unified Communication Manager, Cisco Contact Center Express, Cisco Cubes, Zoom Phone, WebEx Calling Analytics, and now, or soon to be, Microsoft Teams Phone. We support all of these platforms alongside a suite of management tools such as remote phone control, macros, change management, and DID management, which are all focused towards CUCM Cisco Call Manager. But today we are going to be focused on what's new in 16.0. So like I said, if you have any questions on those features I listed, or if you simply have an interest in taking them out for a test drive, feel free to message us here in the chat panel, or if you're already part of the Variphy community, you can reach out to your Variphy account manager for more information. And one more thing before we kick off, I want to let you guys know that Variphy does offer a managed consulting service. This is where our systems engineers team engages with you on a one-on-one basis. They'll remotely provide consulting, unassisted reporting, dashboarding, configuration, and system monitoring assistance. Again, this is a service that provides you a dedicated Variphy systems engineer to do all the heavy lifting for you, giving you a completely hands-off experience. For more information about that, please contact us, and we'd be glad to speak more in length about these managed services. All right, now it's time to get into the demo. Vic, I'll hand off to you.
All right, excellent. Thank you guys for joining us again for this release. This is Variphy 16.0. We do expect this to be out towards the end of next week, so keep your eyes open for that. First thing I'm going to go ahead and start off with is some more system-wide configuration changes. What we've had a lot of customers request for is additional kind of audit logging capabilities within the Variphy system. Audit logging is a pretty large task, and it's something that we are working towards. But what we wanted to do first to really get ahead of what a lot of our customers were asking for, and that was, can we at least get some logging with regards to high impact fields? Things like cluster changes, database changes, if somebody adjusts purge settings or makes any changes that really are system impacting that could result in data loss, can we get some logging behind the system to at least allow us to see maybe what the configurations were, when they changed, who changed them? So in Variphy 16.0, we did add some additional audit logging capabilities. These are going to go ahead and really kind of look at some of what we're considering the highest impact screens right now. Things like our managed screens, where if somebody goes in and makes a change or deletes a cluster, or they change some configurations or some paths that you're going to be able to that could result in not being able to report your data. Along like looking at the processing screens. Processing is detrimental. How long are we keeping CDR? How long are we keeping flat files? Changes in here can happen, although these aren't fields that you're in on a regular basis, but however, they are high impact fields. So Variphy did add some audit logging to our logs to give you the visibility to be able to see if values are changing, what the values were prior to the change, and what the values are after the change. So if somebody is activating processing, we're going to be able to identify who is activating processing. If somebody changes an audit log purge or an audit log path, or they change any of your detail purging settings or activate, database archiving or anything like that, we are now providing some logging to be able to go back, determine what those configurations were, who and when the change was made, but then also giving you what the new changes are. So if it's something that does need to get reverted back, we can quickly identify when it changed, revert it back. If we need to bring some historical data in because maybe something was lost, we know exactly when the change took place and we can bring in data from certain points. So that's much more of a system administrative configuration, but it's going to be great to have the additional logging because from time to time we do give people administrators that maybe they necessarily shouldn't be administrators, and they kind of go in and they're figuring their way out around the system. They may make a change. They're not sure if they did or what the value was prior to them making the change. This is going to give everybody the ability to go back and be like, oops, did I change that or did I not change that? So great to be able to have, and really just a precursor to a lot of other stuff that we're working on with regards to logging. The next thing I'm going to talk about is a little bit more for our Cisco Call Manager customers. And this is something that we had a lot of requests for from various customers, so we're excited to get that out the door. And that is the ability to go ahead and show and report on DN descriptions. So in your Cisco Call Manager, when you are creating DNs, you do have the ability to put descriptions on those DNs. A lot of times those descriptions could be detrimental to what particular phone or what particular DN is being answered. If I have multiple DNs on my phone, they may have multiple descriptions that identify different parts of the organization. So besides being able to just see what extension or what user answered a call, we're now going to be able to also identify what particular DN description is being used to answer those calls. So as we can see right here in the call detail, I can see that we have an originating DN description. We also have a original DN description or dialed party DN description, as well as a terminating DN description. All right, right now I'm running a report on a hunt group, so we don't really see any DN descriptions in here because there's none associated to my hunt group number here. Besides looking at this from a detail perspective, you're also going to go ahead and have the ability to search on those DN descriptions. So by coming into our search criteria, if I type in DN, you're going to see both an originating, dialed, or a terminating DN description. And if you're familiar with Variphy's reporting platform, you also know we're going to go ahead and combo those guys. So you can search whether a call was originated, dialed, or terminated as part of a DN description. This does have a Boolean value, so you can go ahead and do equals or contains. You can also go ahead and do something like ends with ext. This will go ahead, for me in my system, go ahead and identify all of our phones that end with ext. And if we take a look here, we can see our DN description ends with ext. And if I scroll off to the right, we can also see that my terminating and also my dialed party also end with ext. So this is a great way to be able to help define different search sets. We see a lot of people that are identifying things in their DN descriptions that help dissect different parts of their organization, whether it's different departments, different business units, different offices or locations. We're seeing that those DN descriptions are vital for that reporting, so we did go ahead and add that into the Variphy system. The other part of what we did as far as DN descriptions, and I'm going to change my search up a little bit here, instead of just looking for ext, I'll show you another way we're seeing that used is people looking for mobility lines and identifying, if I can go ahead, spell that right. Let's see, did I get that right? There we go. Mobility. So people are helping to identify some of their mobility lines by using those particular DN descriptions as well. So again, the search feature there is going to really allow you to kind of really hone into certain parts of your data based off of the DN descriptions. The other part of what we did as far as DN descriptions, besides just giving you the ability to go ahead and report those from a detail perspective, you're also going to be able to go ahead and report those from a summary perspective. I'm going to pick on a department here, and I'm just going to use my maintenance department here. We'll run just a very quick report. In my maintenance department, I've got several people. They have first names, last names. They have departments associated to them if we want to take a look at the departments. we can go ahead and add that, or do I already have department in there? Oh, it's already in there. And we can see that these are all folks in my maintenance department with various DN descriptions associated to them. In many cases, you could see the same person with multiple DNs, multiple DN descriptions. Some may be their extensions, some may be their mobility extensions, some may help find different facets of your organization. But besides being able to just report those and see those from a detail perspective, you do also have the ability to do some summary on those values as well. Right now, I'm just looking at my total department. So I'm really just identifying all the calls going into my departments. But you're also going to have the ability to go ahead and isolate those DN descriptions based off of how they're being utilized. So from a primary grouping type, I can go ahead and organize this report to show all calls to all of my DN descriptions. In this case, I'm using terminating DN descriptions because I'm focusing on the terminating department right here. But you can easily do this for originating, dialed, or terminating, or all three of those if you wish. So by using the primary filtering right here, essentially what this is going to do is break down my report and identify all of the DNs and the DN descriptions associated to this particular department. And here now what we're doing is we're breaking this down by the DN descriptions. You will notice this guy over here, no problem. This is identifying my hunt group calls. So these are all the calls that went to the hunt group and never actually filtered out to an individual. Those can be sorted any number of ways or excluded from the report in any number of ways as well. Besides just adding it as a department detail perspective, this is also going to go ahead and be what we'll call a secondary grouping perspective. So let's say, for example, I want to be able to filter this report on my end users. In other words, all of the people that are handling my calls in my department, but I want to see which DN they're actually answering those calls on. So besides using just a primary grouping type for DN description, you also have that as a secondary grouping type for several of the primary grouping type options. Predominantly end user type configurations like departments or end users are going to have that terminating party DN description or originating or terminating. So if I run this guy right now, we're going to see a little bit different of a result. And essentially what we have here, and let me blow this guy up so you guys can see it, is one, I have the total values for all the calls coming in and out of my department. But two, I've also broken it down to the individuals that are answering those calls and which particular DN descriptions they are answering those calls off of. So Courtney here is a perfect example where I have these calls coming into Courtney. She answered one of those calls off her mobility extension and two of those calls off her hard phone extension. So this is going to give people a lot of flexibility to not only see who's handling those calls, but which particular lines they're handling those calls on. We see a lot of people from a customer service perspective asking for that type of information. Are we talking longer when we answer on our mobility versus our hard phone? Do we have a tendency to answer more calls when we're using mobility or when we're answering our extension or our hard phone? Or the same thing, I have Courtney here and she works for 3 different groups. She's got 3 different DNs that have 3 different descriptions. We want to know which particular one she's answering the most calls off of. So by being able to break those down to the DN descriptions, you're going to be able to really dissect that data even further down to provide, in Courtney's case, which particular device she's answering the calls off of, or in other cases, maybe what department or what group Courtney would be answering the most calls for. And then last but not least, one of the things that we are so stoked about, and if you missed our webinar the previous week, I definitely urge you, pop over to Variphy.com, go to our webinars channel. We did, our friend Jim Schultens over here, who is our subject matter expert on Microsoft Teams, did an excellent webinar on doing some reporting for Teams. But that is also going to be rolling out in version 16 as well. So if you guys are in a hybrid type environment, you will now be able to get Microsoft Teams and Cisco Call Manager or WebEx or Zoom or Cube all under one umbrella. This is great. We see a ton of people starting to do migrations. They may be on Cisco Call Manager. They may be moving to MS Teams. Now what we're going to do is we're going to allow them to use their Cisco Call Manager and also do the cross-comparison report to their MS Teams. So as they're migrating phones one way or another, or as they're starting to gather information from the Cisco Call Manager to determine how they want to migrate to MS Teams, you will be able to see all that information either under a single or multiple reports, but all under one umbrella in Variphy. So this is a huge, huge process for us. And when I said I'm excited to get 16 out, I'm super excited to get this out the door. Again, expect this to come out late next week. But with MS Teams, you're going to have all of the same flexibility that you had and customizability that you had with Verify's Call Manager or WebEx or Zoom reporting. That's the ability to do things like number searches on information, search on particular departments. Let's go ahead and find just a couple of calls here and let's see what we get. So wildcard searches, you're also going to notice that the cradle to grave that you may be familiar with Call Manager is also going to be included by default with the MS Teams communication. So not only are you going to get individual call legs right in the history search, you're also going to be able to drill into those call legs from history search, much like we can do with WebEx, much like we could do with Call Manager reporting, but directly from the UI in Verify 16.0 for MS Teams. So a lot of stuff going on with MS Teams. Obviously, this is a big release for us. Same thing with reporting and being able to schedule those reports, as well as role-based access with MS Teams. One of the big things we hear with MS Teams, besides the difficulty in really just kind of pulling reports out of the native application, is the ability to allow others to be able to use the application. Everybody here that's familiar with Verify at all knows we're a relatively simple system to be able to use. You can pick your search criteria, whether you're searching on people's user names or whether you're searching on extensions, and easily find the information that you're searching for without having to jump through hoops. But with version 16, we're also going to be rolling out the role-based access. That's going to give you the ability to really kind of create what we'll call custom roles for people. So in this example, I can give a role that's called limited access, and this person's only going to be able to access 3 individuals within the organization. So when I provide that security to somebody, you have the knowledge to know, and you have the comfort to know that when this person logs in and they go to run reports or schedule reports, they're only going to be able to see the data that you are allowing them to see, not giving them access to company-wide information, which is a huge security concern nowadays, especially with HIPAA. There's a lot of PII that can be developed from here when you're looking at telephone numbers or client telephone numbers. So being able to limit what a user is allowed to see is a great way to be able to roll this out to your end users and really have to take and let the voice administrators do what the voice administrators need to do. That's maintain the phone system. Let the business managers and the line of business managers do what they need to do, and that's run their reports for their people, understand how their calls are transpiring through the Cisco Teams system. So with that, Trey, I know that was quite a mouthful. We are excited to get this out the door. Are there any questions for me on anything that we're rolling out in version 16?
Let's see, we got one question here, and it's in regards to the audit logging that was mentioned, I believe, at the beginning.
Okay.
Just asking, are there additional licenses required for the audit logging to be enabled?
Sure. At this point in time, there is no additional licensing required. This logging will be part of version 16. It is rolled into part of version 16. So no, to answer that question, there is no additional licensing model for the level of audit logging that we're putting out right now.
All right, and just one quick closing announcement before we go. I'm inviting you to join us next Wednesday, March 20th, for our weekly webinar. Then the topic for that discussion is getting started with Microsoft Teams phone reports. So it's going to be pretty valuable if you're interested in the Teams talk today. And as Vic mentioned, we also have a sneak peek into that same reporting in a previously recorded webinar available on our website, verify.com/company/webinars. All right, and with that today, I'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for joining here today. If you haven't already, please feel free to add us on LinkedIn. My name is Trey Gonzalez, and I was joined by Victor Verba. We'd love to connect with you. All right, thanks again, guys, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks all.